So welcome once again. Welcome to our Azure series. And today I'll be teaching on Azure virtual machines. Before I dive into telling us what a virtual machine is, so I'll just say that a virtual machine is one of the most important services in cloud computing because it lets you and I run a full computer in the cloud without touching any physical hardware. So I hope that by the end of this session, we all will know what a VM is, we will know how it works and how to create and connect to one on Azure. So my name is Olive Okakun, and I'm here with Paul Oborefo. So we are both cloud computing engineers. I know that I was once wondering what a virtual machine is. When I came to cloud computing, I kept on hearing because I feel like virtual machine is one of the most important, if not the most important resource in cloud computing. So I kept on hearing virtual machines, and I was like, which one is virtual machine? And they told me that virtual machine is having a computer in another computer. And I'm like, computer in another computer. It took me a while before I understood it actually. But after I joined my place of work and they started breaking it down, not just breaking it down, I also saw a practical of it and I was like, oh wow, so you are actually operating this machine in your machine. So it sounded very funny, but it was actually a very wonderful experience. So let's dive into it. So now we'll be talking on what is a virtual machine. So a virtual machine is like a computer, just like I said earlier, inside another computer. So it behaves exactly like a normal laptop or desktop. Just exactly. It's just like you're having your computer in your computer, your laptop in your laptop. So it has its own OS, that it has its own operating system, it has its own memory, storage, applications. So the difference is that it is not physical. So you can't carry this one. You can't carry it like if you're going home, maybe you're closing from your work, you package it, put it in your bag. This one is just in the cloud. It's virtual, right? So that's the difference. So Azure hosts it for you in the cloud. Aside Azure, there are other cloud providers that also helps you host your virtual machines. So an example, imagine borrowing a fully functional computer from Microsoft anytime you need it without buying a hardware for it. It's basically a computer that lives in the cloud. It has its own everything, its own OS, memory. You have the liberty to choose to configure it the way you want to, right? There's one of my mentors, when she was teaching us virtual machines, she said outside the country, when you want to buy a computer or a laptop, you don't buy everything in full, right? You tell them, okay, this is the storage I want, this is the OS I want. Then they'll help you like configure everything together and give you your system or your laptop. Unlike how we do it here in Nigeria, here you go to the market, you can just buy your already packaged computer, already packaged laptop, right? So it's just like you, for example, this virtual machine is just like the one they do outside the country, because this one you have the liberty of okay picking what you want, the exact features, like the exact workload you want to carry. Maybe you're using it for something, you already know, okay, what kind of computer do I need, what kind of storage do I need on this computer. You configure it by yourself, right? It gives you the liberty of doing all those things. Okay, so why use a VM? Because you might ask, okay, when I can carry my hardware, why do I need to configure a virtual machine? Now, we need a virtual machine to test applications safely without affecting your main computer. So if you want to, like, maybe you want to develop an application or you want to test it, you can just easily, okay, let me spin up a virtual machine and test it on that VM instead of testing it directly on your main computer. So basically, even if you work in a place where you help customers troubleshoot, also where you help customer configure a lot of things, you can, before going to the customer's environment, you can easily configure it. You can easily do whatever you want to do on your virtual machine before taking into the customer's environment. So it's also used to host websites, applications, or services. It's used to practice IT skills such as installations and configurations. Then on a VM, you can run Windows or Linux without owning the physical device. So that it gives you the liberty of choosing the OS you want to use or the image you want to use. Then you can create, delete, or change it anytime with no physical damage. It's actually very, very, very flexible. I know how many times I spinned up a VM, used it, and maybe deleted it when I don't need it again. So it's actually, and there is more. There are a lot of things you can use VM for, but basically, this session is about you creating the VM, then remoting into it using RDP, that is a remote desktop protocol. So steps to create a VM in Azure. To create a VM in Azure, we'll have to log into portal.azure.com to do that. Then you search for virtual machines. You click on create. Although I'll be showing us the practical. You click on create Azure virtual machine. Then in the basics tab, you fill in your subscriptions, the resource group, which I spoke on the last time. I think our last session, right, Paul? I think it was the last session. Yes, we spoke on resource group. Okay.
Yes.
So resource group is like a container that I used a makeup example. You having your makeup kit, putting all your makeup stuffs in that bag. So that's what a resource group is. It's like a container, a bag where you put all your resources. So you'll be required to select the particular resource group you want them to be in. Then of course you have to give your virtual machine a name. If you want to have it, it should also have a naming convention because it's actually very good in a production environment. You should have like a particular way you name your virtual machines or your resources. So you give your virtual machine a name and a region. Then you choose an image for your virtual machine, whether a Windows server or Windows 10 or 11, whatever you want to do, depending on why you're creating your virtual machine. So you select your VM size, you set your admin username and password, then you click on review and create, then you wait for deployment to complete. So this deployment doesn't even take up to 2 minutes before your VM is being created. Okay, so key Azure terms you must know. The resource group, which I already mentioned earlier, is like a container or folder where you store all related resources, your VM, disks, your NIC, which is your network interface card, your IP, then your region. Region is actually very important when creating a virtual machine. So it's a physical Azure data center location. For example, you have a lot of regions, so you choose or select the one closest to you because that's where your virtual machine is going to be stored. You should know the location or the region closer to where you are. This improves latency. Image, it means the operating system template, whether a Windows Server 2019, 2022, Ubuntu, just depends on the image you're using. So whenever you hear image, it's not talking about picture, right? It's talking about operating system templates. So your VM size, it determines how powerful the VM is. So the number of cores, number of CPUs, RAM that you want to use. Availability options, settings that improve reliability. I put it here that it's not compulsory for beginners. So this is like availability zone. It still has to do with region, but I'll be showing us practically. So now connecting to the VM using RDP, I want to quickly go through this so that we can go into the practical. I feel like practical makes you to understand things better instead of theory. So when you're seeing it, it's sticking better than you just reading, talking and talking and talking. So I'm trying to rush through this slide so that we can go into the practical. So connecting to the VM using RDP. RDP is remote desktop protocol, like I mentioned, and like it enables you to log into your virtual machine using your username and your password, right? So this RDP provides a graphical interface so that you can control a remote computer as if you were sitting in front of it. So it's actually a very, very easy way to log into your computer although it's not as secure because there are two ways you can actually log into your Windows VM. You can use the RDP, you can also use the Bastion. Though we'll be talking about that one subsequently in our subsequent classes, but I'll be focusing more on RDP. So Bastion is more secure and you don't need your public IP for Azure Bastion, logging into your VM using Azure Bastion. But for RDP, you need your public IP is very important. Logging into your system using RDP. So on the VM overview page, you copy your public IP address, you click on connect, RDP, you see a download RDP file. So there are two ways you can actually access your RDP file. You can go to your Windows button on your computer, click on it, you type remote desktop, you click on it, then input your IP, your public IP address, and it loads, then you input your password. The one here too is another way. After creating the VM and your VM has started running, you go to connect, then you see RDP file, you download it, open the downloaded file, then you enter your username and password. So this one just takes you in. You don't need to start copying your public IP address and click yes to connect. Your Windows server, your VM will open like a normal computer. Summary, your virtual machine is simply a computer running in the cloud, and Azure lets you create one by choosing a region, operating system, size, and login details. So after creation, you manage it from the overview page and connect it through RDP using public IP. So thank you very, very much. Let's go to portal.azure.com and so that we can see VM practically. So I don't know if you have any questions before I jump right into the practical.
I think it's clear enough, right?
It's clear. Yes, it is clear enough. Can proceed.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so we want to create a virtual machine. So before creating a virtual machine, although you can also create your virtual network in the process of creating your virtual machine, but creating your virtual network first of all is actually best practice, because in a production environment, maybe you have the amount of persons you want to have this IP, set them, give these IPs to, you have to first of all subnet it. You have to first of all create your virtual network before creating your virtual machine, so that you can just easily choose your virtual network already created. However, if you do not want to go through that route, you can create your virtual network in the process of creating your virtual machine. So let me go to the virtual network. You already see that I created a virtual network before. Now, okay, so this is the virtual network I created when we were talking about virtual network.
Maybe you want to refresh the page.
All right, then. Okay, so these are virtual network. You can see the address space that was given. And this is the subnet that was created. So you can see test subnet, which is 10.0.0.0//24. Okay, so let's go right into creating a virtual machine. So we're going to be using this same virtual network that was created, since it's actually for test. So we're going to type just like I did now, virtual machines. Once it comes up, we're clicking on create. So as you can see here, there are a lot we can create from here. Virtual machine, skill set, preset, hybrid, pre-configured, and hybrid solution. So our focus for today will be virtual machine. So you click on it. Okay, so this is what creating a virtual machine looks like. So just like I explained earlier, we have to choose a subscription. So assuming we had maybe more than one subscription, of course, this is where this is very necessary and important, because you have to select the exact subscription you want the resource to be under. So now in our case, we just have one subscription, so it's automatically appeared there. So for the resource group, I previously created a resource group, which is RGVNet test, and that's where our virtual network is. So we're going to be using this same resource group. Most times, Azure usually, for example, if you select a region that does not support the particular resource you are creating, Azure pops up like a deployment recommendation for you. So it's left for you to view recommendations or ignore.
I guess what happened is you didn't impute everything and then it went to create. You didn't create.
Okay, so let's go on. So now what name should I give my virtual machine? So I'll just follow this my naming convention. That's Azure Series VM test. Okay, so it automatically took the same region because I mentioned that the resource group was created in this same region. Then the availability zone, which is basically for redundancy, basically separates your resources within an Azure region. So in case there is like a fault, it automatically fails over to another zone. So that's like the basic importance of this availability zone. Self-selected. So click on the self-selected zone. So this zone option, choose preferred zone for your VM, self-selected, and let the system assign a zone Azure selected based on your availability needs and current conditions. So we're choosing self-selected, which is choose up to 3 availability zones, 1 VM per zone. So we're going with zone 1. So if we select each of these zones, we can actually select we can tick the boxes, either zone 1, zone 2, or zone 3. So that's if there's any issue in zone 1, it automatically goes over to zone 2. But for test purposes, we're going to be going with zone 1. Then security type, trusted launch virtual machines. If you're creating any resource on Azure, you can, if you do not understand what that particular thing is talking about, you can just hover your mouse on it. Azure has made it very simple and easy for us to read and get the point of, okay, what is this talking about? Then you read it and you know the exact thing it's talking about before going for it or before doing anything you want. So security type refers to the different security features available for a virtual machine. Security features like trusted launch and confidential virtual machines help to improve the security of Azure Generation 2 virtual machines. Okay, so however, not all VM configuration are supported when using these additional security features. So we're going to be choosing the trusted launch virtual machines, which is the default and the preferred Azure preferred security feature. So the image, like I said, is like your OS. So we're going to go with Windows Server. Okay, this is Windows Server 2025 data center. So let's go with Windows Server 2022. So if you want to see all images, for example, you click on this arrow down and you scroll, you don't see the exact OS you want to use, you can select all image. So when you click on see all images, all the images will come up. Everything will come up here. Then you can now select from here. So you can see Windows Server, Ubuntu Server, Windows 11, Windows 10, a whole lot of them. So since we are going with Windows Server, you can click on the drop down. Then, so we'll be going with Windows Server 2019 Data Center Gen 2. Okay, now for the size, you can see here, this size is not available in zone 1. Zone 2, 3 are supported. So if you want to change, you can go ahead and change the size. You can go ahead and change this zone 1 to zone 2 or zone 3. But for me, I'm going to change the size. Okay, so no error was thrown, meaning that, okay, this is accepted. This exact size is accepted. Then here you'll be advised to input your username and your password. So I'll be giving it test VM, then I'll input my password. For here, inbound port rules. Select which virtual machine network ports are accessible from the public internet. You can specify more limited or granular network access on the networking lab. So now for here, since it's a test environment, we'll be selecting some ports, right? But most times in a production environment, we'll click on none to avoid like maybe any internet access using any port that is enabled. So we'll just click on none. But for now, we'll be clicking on allow selected ports. And the selected ports we're going to be allowing is RDP. So we have HTTP, we have HTTPS, and we have SSH. So this SSH is basically for the Linux virtual machines. If you're creating a Linux virtual machines, you won't be seeing this RDP. It's SSH that will come up here. So since this is a Windows virtual machine, we'll be selecting remote desktop protocol, that's 3389. So this will allow all IP address to access your virtual machines, which, as I said, is not recommended for production. So it has also written here, this is only recommended for testing. Use the advanced controls in the networking tab to create rules to limit inbound traffic to known IP addresses. Okay, so the next, we'll click on next, which is the disk. So the default disk is always premium SSD, but we can limit it because this is usually very expensive. So, and usually very fast. But for you to save costs, since you're just creating it for tests, I would advise you go for the standard SSD. As you can see here, premium SSD, best for production and performance sensitive workloads. The standard SSD, best for web servers, likely used enterprise applications and dev slash test. Then the standard HDD rather is best for backup, non-critical and infrequent access. So I advise we just go for the standard SSD since it's a test environment. So you can see that the image default for the disk size default is 127. However, there are other sizes here that you can select depending on why you're creating the virtual machine, the workloads that you want to put on the virtual machine. So you have to check here and use your discretion. So that for now, I'll be using 127. Delete with VM, can leave it, take key management. So a disk encryption set stores the custom key that a disk or snapshot will use for encrypting its data. So you must choose an existing disk encryption set during this step. Disk encryption sets require access to key vaults and keys. So basically, this is used for encryption of data. So here we'll be selecting the platform managed key. There's also the customer managed key. So click on next, networking. So this picks the virtual network that I created earlier. So when creating a virtual machine, a network interface will be created for you. If you do not have any already created virtual network, it automatically creates one for you. But if you're not okay with the one created for you, you can click here, create new and edit. Let me click on it. Although I'm not creating new because I already have an already existing virtual network. But you can click on create new. You can see here, it's loading. Okay. So you can see it here. You can give it the name you want. You can edit. You can delete if you do not want it. But we are okay with this one. Okay. So that's basically what we've been checking here, the networking. Then the management. So configure management options for your VM. So if you want, for example, we have Microsoft Defender for Cloud here. Microsoft Defender for Cloud provides unified security management and advanced threat protection across hybrid cloud workloads. This virtual machine stuff is actually depending on what you are creating the virtual machine for, why you are creating the virtual machine. So that will now judge the features and what you are going to be enabling when creating the virtual machine. But since we are creating this virtual machine for test purposes, we'll not be needing this management part. We'll not be needing most of them. But although there are some settings here that are actually very, very important. For example, this auto shutdown, we can enable it. We can enable auto shutdown just in case you're finished doing what you're doing and your VM is still running. You can say, okay, once it's 7 p.m., let this VM automatically shut down. And once it's 7 p.m., your VM will shut down to save costs in case you forget to stop it from running. Then we have backup. If you want to do backup, you can enable backup from here. So it just depends on your discretion. Just like I said earlier, what you want to use the virtual machine for. Microsoft Entra ID, login with Microsoft Entra ID. So this is RBAC role as assignment for virtual machine administrator login or virtual machine user login, which require going using Microsoft Entra ID. So this is identity, enable system assigned managed identity. On to the next one, which is monitoring. So we can configure monitoring options for your VM here. Can enable recommended alert rules. You can enable with custom storage account, but for now, we'll be enabling with managed storage account. Health, enable application health monitoring. So there are a lot of things we can do. So we'll go to the advanced option. We're not really doing anything here. We'll leave it as it is. So this extension is basically in case you want all those add-ons, in case you want some extra features to be installed on your virtual machine. So this is where you come, you select an extension to install. For example, you can install like a monitoring agent on your virtual machine. So we go over to tags. So tags are basically like labels. We've spoken about this in our previous series about tags, how tags are important. They are labels you use to identify your resource. If you have a lot of resources, you can group them some particular resources. You can give them a tag for you to easily identify them. So it's also used in maybe you want to run a script. The tags are also used maybe to locate that particular resource. So it's actually very important in real life scenarios in production environment. But since it's a test environment, we'll be leaving that out for now. Then the next is to review and create. So this review is going to just check everything we have done, everything we have set from basics, digs, networking, management, monitoring, advanced, everything at all that we enable. It's going to check if it's actually okay. So it's running final validation. So it says validation passed. Then we create. So this doesn't take up to it doesn't take up to 2 minutes to create. So let's just kindly hold on while the VM is creating.
Okay, so while this is loading, yeah, it's also very important that every feature that, or to note that every feature that we are actually picking or choosing in the course of creating a virtual machine is also very important to put cost into consideration, because you do not just pick and pick and pick. In instances where you are working for corporate environment, they they might have a budget, and beyond what they
Exactly.
want to use the VM for, right? They might have a budget. You need to work with the budget, while you also put into consideration the need for the VM, and then you try to align the both together to bring out the best in.
Exactly. Because whatever you select, that's
Thank
what
you.
the Azure will be charging you on. So thank you very much for that too. Thank you. So our VM has been created. So we can even check here to see the amount of time it took. Okay, so 1 minute, 24 seconds. So the next thing we're going to do is to go to our VM, the whole configuration, the location, South Africa North, Zone 1. It's running because whenever you create a virtual machine, it automatically starts running. But if you want to stop it, you can come here. You can see connect, start. So it's already running. That's why this part is grayed out. Restart, stop, hibernate. So this hibernate option is actually not clickable. So it's not enabled because when we're creating, we didn't enable this feature, this hibernate feature. So that's why we can't click on it. So you can see delete, capture, refresh, and all of that. So starting here, the overview is just basically the whole details. It shows the details of the VM, like the main dashboard of the VM. In case you want to check maybe a particular information, you can just come here, just like the dashboard. You can see our public IP, you can see our private IP address. If you want to configure a DNS, you can come here, you can click on this. virtual network, and the virtual network we use and our subnets. Then the size, vCPUs, the RAM. So this is just like a basic dashboard, a basic information, the main dashboard of our virtual machine. So the activity log just shows us everything that has happened on the VM, or to the VM rather. So who created the, who stopped it, who changed the setting, you can see it here. So create or update virtual machine, you can see it succeeded 3 minutes ago. Event initiated by, you see the person, the who initiated the event, who stopped it, and all of that. So this is where you see it there in the activity log. Then the access control is basically used to assign identity. It's an identity and access management part of the VM. So if you want to assign roles, identities, you come here. So, but I'm not going to dwell much on it. Then tags, we already spoke about that. So diagnose, solve problems. Okay, we all know this is in case maybe you have an issue with your virtual machine, you can come here, type the issue, and Microsoft will help you with possible solutions. Then the resource visualizer, okay, you can see it. This shows us our like a diagram of our resource. You can see the Azure VM, the disk, and all of that. If we want to connect, we can come here. So I said, remember I said we can connect to our VM using RDP. You can also connect to our Windows VM using Bastion, which I won't be dwelling much on. Okay, until maybe our next series, we'll still talk about how what Azure Bursting entails and how to use it to connect to our virtual machine. So we have the networking, network settings, application security groups, load balancing, network manager. So this shows all the network settings of the VM, your public IP, your network interface, subnets, NSG, that's your network security group. So if you want to open or maybe close a port, like maybe RDP, this is where you do it. And we have the settings, disk, essentials, applications, operating system, configuration, advisor recommendations, properties, and locks. So we have the availability plus scale, the size, availability scaling, we have the security, we have backup and disaster recovery. So if you want to back up this VM, you come here, backup, disaster recovery, restore points. We have the operations. So this auto shuts down that we saw when initially creating the virtual machine. We can come here in case you don't want to go with the settings you did initially. You can come here to change it. You can change the settings, put the time you want. But if you don't want auto shuts down, maybe you want your VM to be running 24/7, can come here and put it off. Then we have the updates, run command. You can run PowerShell scripts. We have the updates, health monitoring, configuration management, policies, inventory, change tracking. We actually be going through each and every one of these subsequently. Then we have monitoring. If you want to monitor the health of your virtual machine, we have the insights that Azure offers. Okay, VM availability available, Azure outage is no outage, health events, two events. So if you want to check like the health of your VM generally, you can come under this monitoring. You'll see alerts. If you want to enable alerts, for example, when your VM shuts down, it automatically sends you an alert to your email address. When there's anything happening on your VM, it sends you an alert. If you want to delete a very important application, it sends you an alert too. So you can come here and set them. So we have automation. You can you have the tasks and the exports templates. Then we have help. So this help is basically this resource help. It's basically you can come here to reset your password. You can come here to check your resource health. You can come here for support and troubleshooting. There are lots actually. You can just play around this. Maybe when our free time, you can just come here and see a lot of things that you can actually achieve using your virtual machine, aside maybe just creating it and connecting and using it for that exact purpose. So now we'll be going to the connecting. So if you want to connect to your virtual machine, you can go through this place, click on connect. But before I go through this particular step, We can also go through our windows, which I mentioned earlier, to check for RDP. Okay, RDP, remote desktop connection. All right, but before you bring it up, you can already copy your public IP. So once you copy your public IP, once it's on, you impute your public IP and connect, right? So once you click on connect, to bring up a page for you to impute your username and your password. So this step or this process will require you to copy out your public IP. So you can also go through this route. Go to connect, click on connect. When you click on connect, you can see your information here, your Windows, your IP, port 3389, which is the RDP that was enabled by creating the virtual machine. So what you just do here is to download this RDP file. Okay, so once it downloads rather, you come to your files. Okay, then you go to your downloads because it has already downloaded. Then what you just need to do here is to double click. So this, you don't need to delete this maybe after you are done. You don't need to delete it because you can always come here to access your VM. You can always come here, click on it, and straight up it takes you. You have to input your password and username. Sure, your administrator password and username that you initially used when creating the virtual machine. So you just have to double click it. And once you double click it, you'll be required to put in your password. So you just click on connect. So this is it. So I'll be inputting the password I used while creating. Click on yes. So this is it. Our VM is coming up. Okay, voila. And here we have our virtual machine, our computer inside our computer. So we can do whatever we want to do here, just like our normal computer, right? We can install applications, we can configure it to what we want to use it for, like our normal computer. So that's basically it for it. I'll be stopping here for now. So I don't know if you have any contributions, any question, addition to everything so far. Thank you very much for your time.